All right. So let me just say for the camera that this is our pets number 3. And what I just put in the chat is a PDF of the information that that was compiled by Suzanne, so that you guys all have a copy of that. It was really interesting. So Rotary is looking into becoming a 501c3, but that will do nothing to change the 501c4 status that all of the clubs have just upon being chartered. So in order to, and that just gives you tax exempt status and allows you to not have to pay federal taxes. So if you would like to pursue the tax deductions, being able to allow people to tax deductions to donate to your club, you have to either establish an account under the Rotary Foundation Donor Advised Fund, establish a foundation, which many clubs have done, or apply directly to the IRS for 501c3 status exemption for the whole club, for the club itself. So thank you very much, Suzanne, for getting that information together. And, that document can be available for anybody on that.
Can I add an additional thing there?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The Bangor Breakfast Rotary is a 501c4, just like all the other Rotary clubs are. But we have a subsidiary. It's a 501c3. It's a standalone 501c3.
It's a foundation.
No, it's the Bangor Breakfast Charities.
Yep.
It's a separately established 501c3 for that purpose.
Right. That's how you would do it if you were setting up a foundation. It's a whole separate thing from your club, instead of making your whole club a 501c3.
Okay.
So it's option 2 in those options. So your club has done that. A lot of clubs have done that actually too. Yep. Yep. So Ken would be a good person to ask, maybe, if your club, one of the things that was mentioned is that if you want to pursue this for your club, you might want to find a club that's already doing it and ask them how they handled that. So I'm going to go ahead and mute everybody's mics right now. So if you do need to say something, don't hesitate to unmute your mic, but just so that we don't get any background noise as we're going. And our presentation today is going to start with, oh, really? Huh. That's interesting. You can't minimize the screen while you're Zooming. I'm going to share my screen so we can start in with the slides. We're going to start with membership, and Tina's going to start. Actually, why don't I ask you first? Do you have any slides, Tina, or are you just going to talk to us?
No, I'm just going to talk.
Okay, good. So I will just, actually, then I won't put the slides up at all.
There.
That way we can all see each other and you're not looking at the same boring slide yeah.
Okay, right. So should I just go ahead and jump in?
Go for it.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm doing 2 sessions for you on membership. One is attracting new members, and the other is membership retention, which go hand in hand. And so if I get to a point where I'm asking questions, if you would just raise your hand and then unmute once I call on you, that way we don't have more than one person talking at a time, that would be really helpful. So, and first of all, I just want to thank everybody. If you're a president-elect, thank you for taking on this role on behalf of your club and for Rotary as an organization, because it really is very important for us to have very engaged leaders and engaged members. And so part of what we're going to talk about today is how to attract new members and how to engage members. So I thought it might be interesting, though, before we jump in, to give you some numbers about where our membership stands. I know a lot of times we hear a lot about membership going down. We kind of talk about that in our clubs, and we talk about that at the district. And but we've actually been going up a little bit since the beginning of July. Right now, there are almost 36,000 clubs across the globe. So that's about a increase of about 55 since the beginning of July. So that's really good. And the number of Rotarians that we have is actually 1,208,611. So that's upwards of almost 20,000 Rotarians since the beginning of July. What's interesting about the membership numbers across the globe, and this may or may not be true for your club, is we have only 23% women and only 6% under 40 years of age. So when you start to hear about some of the goals that we have for your clubs through things like the district citations and the president citations and things like that around membership, you're probably going to hear us talk about wanting to increase the number of women and increasing the number of people who are under 40 years old. So the first session that we're going to do, and Karina, if I start to go long, just give me the kibbutz and I'll stop, okay? So
what do we have in the schedule to go till?
I think you gave me 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, that's fine.
Okay. So one of the most important things that you're going to do as a club president is developing and implementing innovative strategies to attract prospective members to strengthen your club. So what we're going to talk about in this session is we have 2 learning objectives. One is to identify ways to attract new members, and the other is to develop an action plan for growing your membership. And so one of the things that kind of we underscore with our clubs, and especially for our leaders, is it really helps to be strategic about what you want to do during your year and to have goals. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about that in a little bit. So one thing, if you've looked at the resources that are available, one of the resources is called Be a Vibrant Club. And so one of the things that you're going to want to think about is how you can translate being a vibrant club to your community. And to me, I like to think about that is around how do you make your club irresistible? How do you want to make sure that people in your community hear about your Rotary Club and what you're doing and want to be part of your club? You want them to feel like they're missing out if they're not part of your club. So there are lots of different ways that you can do that. I think having a strong PR and marketing team, whether you have a person who's in charge of that or a small committee who's always thinking ahead around how do you publicize what you're doing in the community so people will know about you and know about your club and know about what you're doing before you come knocking on their door to ask them to become a member. So you do want to appoint a strong person to be leading your membership committee. That's one of the things that you'll want to think about as you're putting together your board for the coming year. And so I just want to highlight one of the things that Rotary Club, the new Waterville Club does, and Jeff Jolliker, who's on the call, has done an absolute wonderful job with this. So we have put in a procedure where our president-elect, the year that they're president-elect, they're also the membership chair. And that provides a lot of ownership with them around really making sure that their membership is healthy as they're getting prepared for their year as president. And it really provides a nice connection for new people coming in with whoever's going to be their president starting July 1. So you definitely want a strong membership chair. And if you can, I know not all clubs have enough people to do this, but if you can have a membership committee so that you have other people who are helping you do that work around trying to do recruitment, then that's also a benefit. So there are lots of resources in the Google Doc that Corinna and the rest of the training team have put together for you. One is called a membership diversity worksheet. And so that's something that you can use. And this is where I want to encourage you to spend some time to be thoughtful about how you want your membership to look, who you want as part of your club, and are there some areas that you're missing? And that's something that you can do with the diversity worksheet. It gives you just some ways to think about who's in your club and who might be missing, and is your club really, is it showcasing what your community members are all about? And one of the questions on this, I really kind of like this a lot, is what's your club personality? And how are you demonstrating that personality to your community members? So, and when you become president, one of the things that you might want to think about is we encourage you to have a club assembly. Probably, ideally, it would be 4 times a year if you can, so once a quarter. So doing these kinds of activities where you're thinking strategically about things like membership, that's a really cool thing that you can do at a club assembly so that you can get everybody involved. So how do you want to, so one of the things that you can do that really helps, and this is where getting back to having a PR person, is making sure that your club is active on social media. So you really want to make sure that you showcase community events and attract potential members. Again, you want them to hear about you and what you're doing before you actually make the ask for them to be part of your club, because you want to make it really easy for them to say yes, they want to be part of your club. So, and think about what are some potential members that you maybe haven't thought about before. So are there former Rotarians that might want to come back because their situation has changed? Or are there young professionals that you might want to tap into? Are there Rotaractors in your area that maybe are ready to be part of the Rotary Club? So, and you can sort of customize your approach to them based on who they are and what their interests are. So one of the things that Rotary has also been trying to do is make sure that the club meetings are more flexible. So you have a lot of leeway as far as what your club meetings look like, how often you're meeting, what the attendance requirements are, things like that. So you don't necessarily, especially as you're thinking about how you want your year to go, you don't necessarily have to stay within some of the traditional practices that we've always had. You can really think about ways to make some changes that are going to attract new and potential members. So I wanted to sort of open it up and ask some questions and see if you can share some thoughts. We'll just take a few minutes to do this. So what do you think attracts members to your club? Anybody want to chime in? How about Scott?
Good service projects. I think good service projects that are seen in the community and people want to get inspired to work with. I think that's a great recruitment tool.
Yeah, and making sure that the community knows what those service projects are. Charlie, did I see your hand up?
Yes, I was going to say club activities, service projects, and I think the speaker schedule we have in Farmington is an attraction also.
So that's a great thought. I mean, how many of you actually publish your speaker's schedule in some way other than on your website? Okay, Nancy does. That might be something to think about too. And I'm, even with our club, I know we do a really good job about posting who our speakers are to our club members, but we don't necessarily post that to outside of the group. So that's an interesting thought as well. What other ways did I see? Ken H, your hand up?
I'm part of Bangor Breakfast Rotary, and I spent about 10 years or so as chair of our membership committee. And I've been through the Rotary Leadership Academy, all 3 of the sessions, plus the graduate program and all of that, to learn their methods and things like that. The number one thing that I have found to recruit membership is you ask 2 people a month to join you for breakfast. Now we're a breakfast Rotary, and I happen to think that that's to our advantage, because what I tell people, and my spiel has always been, you know, we're all very busy, but everybody's got to start the day someplace. And why not start the day with a great breakfast? You come to Bangor Breakfast Rotary, you have a great breakfast, you have some great community, you get involved with some people who are doing fundraising all across the community, and then you get to go on to your day. And then inviting two people, each person invites two people per month to breakfast. And
Oh.
that will build your community.
That is a great idea. And do any of your clubs in that same line of thinking, do any of your clubs recognize people who are bringing in new members?
Yeah, we do. They do. And fortunately or unfortunately, Ken Nagel's the president. He's online, but unfortunately, I get recognized a lot for bringing in new members. But other people do that also.
I know in our club, one of the folks who is super at bringing people in is our chamber director. And I know Jeff has worked with her and, kind of looking at what are the businesses in the area and who's not at our club meetings and who can we very thoughtfully, reach out to and see if they would be interested in joining. So.
And I think that's a great connection. I happen to be a former chairman of the Bangor the Bangor Regional Chamber of Commerce, and so that's got 800 members. So I know those people,
Yeah.
And so when I contact them, they know me, and they'll come to breakfast.
That's awesome. Thank you, Ken.
Yeah.
Tina, can I just jump online for a minute?
Of course you can.
With recognition, I think it's so important to recognize club members who bring new members in. There are some clubs in Quebec who actually have a very formal recognition, and they have a pin. So Rotary has a special pin, and you can recognize everybody every time somebody sponsors a club. So during the initiation of the new member, they also bring up the sponsor and award them a special pin.
Nice. So it's very ceremonial, very, very much about recognizing and making sure that people know that they are part of your organization.
Tina?
Yes. Hi, Doug.
How you doing, Tina?
I'm good. How are you?
You're doing a great job. Just to make sure everyone sees the notes up here that are coming on in chat, back on the topic of what the clubs do as far as letting the public know about their speakers. Mary St. Pierre of the Augusta Club says that they put theirs out on Facebook. So that's another good example of doing that. And Ken Nagel wanted to make sure we realize they're up 6 in membership so far this year.
Oh, very nice. That's excellent.
In Old Town, we really stress to every president-elect coming in that they need to use a standard script for inducting new members, and they're all. I can't remember if I got them off of RI at some point or from some other district. I can't remember now, but I've compiled them and put Old Town in it and stuff. And we've been using the same one for quite a few years, but it's just nice. It's nice to hear every now and then. And it really makes clear to the person coming in why we ask them to be a member and what we're going to do for them and what they can do for us. It's done just really professionally. So it makes it into a nice event.
Where's that script? Because I haven't seen that.
I will.
Where can I find it?
Yeah.
Available.
I'll put mine in the chat. I don't know where because this one we got we really like.
I think if you Google Rotary induction ceremony, you'll come up with a lot of material.
Okay,
Nice.
it's nice to have a standard thing where we kind of play it by ear based on who's the sponsor or the particular person, but it would be nice to have something that embellished the whole process.
Yeah, that sounds like it would be a really great resource to share. Yeah, Robin.
I do know that we've been experimenting with inviting past members back. They may have left the club a while ago because work got in the way or family obligations or what have you. So we've been including them in some of our social gatherings, our fellowship things, you know, making sure they know that some of the attendance requirements have changed a bit and we would welcome them back. I think the biggest thing is making sure hospitality and welcoming is, you know, they feel welcome attending the club, whether they're a past member or a new guest or what have you. And I know that Scott and I and our area has been working on, you know, just join Rotary. We have 3 clubs. We have a breakfast, a lunch, and a dinner, whatever
Yeah.
works for you. We're just glad for you to join us and we would welcome you.
And Tina, again, to the topic of speakers, Nancy Richard, a renegade from the Farmington Club. That's a good laugh. They use 3 local media to get the word out on speakers and then post it on Facebook after the fact.
Oh, great. Okay, great. Nice. I know one of the things that our, Suzanne, I think you and I talked about this, about potentially having like a fireside chat so that all the new folks that have come on board for a little while, and this kind of gets a little bit more into retention, but can meet with the president and ask questions and, you know, the things that we talk about during our meetings, and if they're relatively new and they don't really understand, sometimes it's hard to ask in the middle of a meeting, but gives them an opportunity to say, what the heck is pets and why is everybody always talking about their pets? So okay, so here's a question, and you can just think about this a little bit for yourself, and you don't necessarily have to chime in unless you want to, but if you were joining your club today, would you still join? And why would you want to join? And if there's, you know, if there are any reasons why you might not, then that might be something to think about a little bit moving forward. Okay, so
I
what
don't know
is
if I would. I'm old and tired now. I was young when I joined. It's like, man.
So one of the things that I if we were doing this in person, we would probably ask you to sort of come up with an action plan specifically around recruiting new members. So, but I'll just toss out the question, what is one thing that you might do differently during your year to attract new members? Jeff.
Yeah, I think you've already touched on it. The PR piece really needs to be strong. I know I mentioned it in the last meeting. My excitement moving forward in that realm. We have a new energetic member that came on board maybe 2 months ago. Struggling to find somebody to fill that role in my presidential year, and she just opened up and said, hey, I can do it. That's something I really enjoy doing. And her excitement raised my level of excitement and also optimism moving into next year, because it is critical that we get the word out what we're doing. For so many years, I think we've always worked well to serve our community, our country, and the world, not looking for any kind of recognition for what we do. In this sense, we're still not looking for recognition, but certainly we need to get all our projects out there and make sure people know that, hey, we're accomplishing great things, and you want to be part of that. You want to get that energy. So I'm super excited about the PR piece. I still need to have a sit down with her and make sure we're on the same page and coming up with a plan for next year. But yeah, that's a critical part of my action plan for membership next year. Just thinking along, listening to these conversations. I don't know if something like an email chain, sending out emails to your coworkers. I have 18 coworkers at my office to say, hey, here's somebody that's going to be speaking at our next couple of meetings. do you know somebody who might be interested in this topic? Having them email out to people in their email groups that, hey, this is a topic of the Kennebec Water District has this project going on Main Street, talking about the changing Main Street to a one-way versus two-way versus the one-way. Is this something, somebody that'd be interested in this project? So get the word out what the programs are and what we're accomplishing.
That's awesome. And it's really, I think it's often evident when you don't have like somebody dedicated to doing PR and marketing, because people just don't know what your club is up to. All right. So one of the things that I'm going to encourage you to do is after today's meeting is to take a look at the resources that are in the Google Doc and think about developing an action plan for growing your membership. What I think is really helpful, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in a couple of minutes, but when you get to the point where you're setting goals for your presidential year, it's really helpful to have a numeric goal for what you want your membership to look like, because if you don't know where you're at and you don't know where you're going, how are you going to know when you get there? So Robin, go ahead, I see your hand.
Sorry, had to jump in here. There's a couple notes in the chat.
Okay.
So from Izzy, we've got move your meetings around a bit, need to get out of a rut. From Mary St. Pierre, more exposure to the public, awareness, letting people know. Oh, wait a minute, my screen just went crazy. Sorry.
What we do and who we are, what we stand for, and
Thank
why
you.
they should consider joining us.
Sorry, my screen just went to an Excel form in the middle of everything.
Oh, you might have clicked. Oh, no. And then Jeff is back. He
And
had
then
a side Zoom meeting with his grandkids. And then Izzy also said, Izzy, I'm not sure I understand. Lately, I've been including potential rotations in emails, inviting them. You mean Rotarians?
Rotary.
Okay. She's been including potential Rotarians in emails, inviting them to meetings. And I have to say, inviting those people to Zoom meetings is so easy because you just add them to the email list. And we had one of our summer visitors who comes from Ohio show up at our Zoom meeting this week because he could, and I also invited some other folks that were former members that just can't get to the meetings anymore. They're older, and I invited them as well. They didn't show, but I mean, that's a good way to kind of reach out. And the induction ceremonies are in the chat for you all to download.
That's awesome. Thank you very much for doing that. So again, if you're looking at putting together an action plan for how you want to grow your membership, get your current members involved in that. And, you can use a club assembly. That's a really great way to get people engaged and get them participating in growing your membership of the club. So does anybody have any questions specifically around attracting new? I know this is like an abbreviated version, of course, of what you would get at PETS, but does anybody have any questions specifically around attracting new members, or have any, great other ideas that you would like to share? Okay. All right, so we're gonna move along. And so the next topic is engaging your current club members. So of course, in addition to attracting new members, it's really critically important that our current members are retained and engaged. And so one of the things that as president of your club, you'll be responsible for is really assuring that your current club members are feeling like the Rotary Club is a very valuable use of their time. And again, it kind of gets back to that, whether or not you're an irresistible club. So people are going to want to come to meetings when we're in person again. People are going to want to participate. People are going to want to give to EREY or whatever the case may be. So there's lots of different ways that you can engage current club members. So So one of the things that, again, I just want to reiterate is if you're thinking about how to engage current members, it's a really good idea to take a step back and be strategic about what you're thinking. So for example, if you know that you have 65 members of your club, what are your strategies and what's your action plan around how you're going to keep those 65 members engaged? And so one of the things that you can do or would be helpful for you, and I know not everybody has Club Runner, but for those of you who do have Club Runner, there are really cool reports, especially if you like to look into, you know, the data. There's really cool reports around what's going on for your current membership. Of course, that means that the information that you have in Club Runner has to be up to date, and you have to, you know, it's helpful to input your meeting attendance and things like that. And I don't know if you can see this or not, but this is one of the this is one of the reports that you can get from Club Runner, and it gives you a really nice visual of your active members, who they are, you know, where you're at with your membership numbers, you know, where are you at with your female to male ratio, where you're at with your age range. And this is a really good planning tool. So there are a variety of different reports that you can get out of Club Runner. And then you also are going to want to get more familiar with Club Central, which is on the RI website. So if you go into My Rotary, another kind of subsection of that is called Club Central. And that's where, and I'm going to repeat what I just said, you're going to want to get familiar with this, because this is where you're going to be inputting all of your goals and then reporting on them during the year. It's not as time consuming necessarily as it sounds, because once your goals are in there, then you just kind of go in every once in a while and update them. But so this is going to be it's a tool for you to use to help manage how things are going with your current membership. So there's a lot of different things that you can do to engage your current members, and I know a lot of you are doing a lot of these things. Part of it is, again, making your club meetings very dynamic and inviting. You can, as I believe Izzy mentioned, you can vary your meeting format and location. I know that the folks in Augusta do this as well. Give members a chance to use their expertise. And so that can be, you know, kind of what we were talking about with Randy. You know, if he has, you know, some expertise around making and playing guitars, feature him for one of your speakers. Or if you have somebody who has an expertise in water issues, maybe put them on your international services committee. So making sure that, but you also have to be a little bit careful too, because if you have, for example, if you have a banker in your club, they may not want to be the treasurer. They may want to do something completely different. So there is some conversation that needs to happen around how they want to be engaged as members. So another option is providing flexible meeting times. So for us in Waterville, what we've been trying to do is normally we do a Monday noon meeting, but once in a while we'll do a social hour in the evening on a Monday. So that sometimes gets different folks at the table, and they still feel like they're actively engaged in the club. Planning family-friendly events is really important, especially as we're trying to encourage more 40 and younger folks to be participating in the club, and inviting younger professionals to participate. Those are all ways that you can really diversify your clubs, their interests, and the membership, and makes it a little bit more dynamic. So one of the things that Rotary International has really been trying to do is make sure that you as a club president have the ability to have your clubs be more flexible, realizing that it's very different today than it was 20 or 30 years ago. And we have a lot of moving pieces and parts around people participating in the club. So making them as flexible as possible. And, you know, like I said earlier, relaxing attendance requirements, offering multiple membership types. You know, we've got the corporate membership option now that's available. There's also some online opportunities for people to either do things like makeup, or if that's the kind of club that they are interested in. So there are lots of different options that are available. So a couple things that I wanted to mention too is sometimes getting people engaged in Rotary is not necessarily at the club meeting level. Sometimes it's with the more global Rotary community. So there's a couple things, especially if you're newer to the club, you may not be familiar with, but there's something called a Rotarian Action Group. And so that is, it's a group of Rotarians from all across the globe who are either experts in or who are passionate about a particular topic. So some of they call them RAGs, which is a horrible acronym, but some of the topics that they have the Rotary Action Groups around are literacy. I happen to be part of that one. Peace, water and sanitation, any of those sort of big topical areas that Rotary is really interested in, there's probably a Rotary Action Group that Rotarians can belong to. So that gives Rotarians an opportunity to expand outside of their community-based club. Another opportunity for that is Rotary Fellowships. So that's kind of similar. It's another international group of Rotarians that kind of share the same passion, but this is more of a fun and social kind of thing. So there's a fellowship around golf, and there's a fellowship around cooking, and everybody knows Al Feather is part of the fellowship around beer. So there's a variety of different things like professions that people can get involved in. So it's just another way for people to engage with their broader Rotarian community. Ken, go right ahead.
Yeah, one of the things that we do in our club, and we've done for a while, Ken Nagel may want to say whether it's effective or not, is that the things you just mentioned. Okay, those are things that may be in a Rotary magazine that most people don't read, or whatever, but are available for people to do, and they would, if they got engaged, they would enjoy it. So we have a thing called the Rotary Moment. And once a month we do a Rotary Moment. I happen to do it, but it's about one of those things. It's about a Rotary Fellowship thing or a Rotary group that they can join worldwide. It doesn't cost them anything. All they got to do is engage themselves, and I give them a list of what I know of is the current groups that are part of that and their interest. So all they have to do, and I hand it out to them, so all they have to do is, if it piques their interest, they can go to it and try it out. So just another thing, just to make people aware of something that they probably wouldn't even be aware of.
That's exactly right. I think that there's a lot, for those of us who've been club members for a while, we kind of get familiar with this information, but this is a lot of information for new club members, so it's important to not make assumptions that people know what we're talking about all the time, and to sort of refresh and provide this information for anybody that's relatively new into the club.
Oh, but even for old members, you may have just taken up beer making, and that's one of the groups.
That's right. Yep, absolutely.
Yeah.
Tina,
There's a couple of things in the. Oh, go ahead, Doug. You got it.
We have a couple of comments more going on here, Tina, to keep members involved and enthused. Again, Mary St. Pierre of Augusta says they also do a mixer event with another group, and they plan on inviting their local synergy group to come to a social. So that would certainly, I think, influence people. And Laura Pellerano of Ellsworth says that they do offer in their club corporate and family memberships. And Nancy Richard has a question. She became quite inquisitive after coming through the Farmington Club, I think. There she goes. She's smiling again. She said that at the PETS training last week, that was mentioned that if we change names and/or locations, there's a 21-day lead time for notification. And how would it work if we become a mobile club? So Nancy, would you unmute on that? And just what do you mean by a mobile club?
Well, I don't know who it was now. I'm in listening and writing at the same time said that they change up their locations. So if you become mobile and you're changing locations, whether it be monthly or, you know, once a month or twice a month, I just remember taking a note that it said that there was a requirement of a 21-day notice.
Yeah, well, that would only be if you were indeed changing your name of the club. And
Not location.
when they say location, they mean more like changing from Lewiston, Auburn to another town.
Okay.
That's what they
I
mean.
I can jump in on this one. Our club does take field trips or road trips, and we go visit maybe a local restaurant. We've gone to Uno's for a dough raiser. We've gone to the University of Maine and let them host us for the evening. We've gone to local businesses of members in our club over the years where maybe they host the meeting at their business. We do our usual meeting there, and then instead of having a speaker, we do a tour of the business. So we've gotten kind of creative. So we learn about our members, our businesses that are in the club, maybe some really cool things that are happening, like the 3D printer on campus. So we've gone and done different field trips. And so we just try to make sure people know in advance, put it on Facebook, put it on our website, make sure people are in the know.
Nice. Thank you. So I just want to go over a couple more things. I'm a little sensitive to the fact that it's like 10 minutes of 7. Sorry, I just got muted.
Karina's muted.
I muted you instead of unmuting myself.
Okay.
So you have until about 5 of, because
Okay.
we extended your time because we
Okay.
thought you were good. So we all were texting and agreed.
Okay. Okay. So a couple of more things. I wanted to mention that there is something that's also available to you, which is a member satisfaction survey. So that's something that it's a really nice tool to be able to find out what your current members like and don't like about sort of their club experience. And if you have a chance to take a look at it. And it was really good idea to do like a temperature check maybe once a year to see how things are going. And it isn't even necessarily just members. You could also always perhaps ask former members who may in fact have some really interesting feedback for your club. But this just gives you an opportunity to find out what people are really enjoying. And of course there's going to be, there's always some juxtaposition between, people like it one way and people like it the other, but you really want to kind of look for trends and what people overall are saying about what they really like and what perhaps we might be able to change about the club. So the other thing that I really wanted to highlight is, and I'm not sure if this is part of the strategic planning discussion, but you have a couple of really fabulous tools at your disposal as you're planning your year. And a lot of this has to do with membership and member engagement. These tools, if you're not already familiar, which you probably are, but I don't want to assume that you are, these are your citations. So every year, both the Rotary International president and the district governor have a citation that they encourage all of the clubs to go through and work towards meeting. So if you take a look at what's in a citation, so what I did is I pulled out the 2021 citation from Rotary International. If you look at the goals that are in this, this is like a blueprint for running the club. So it talks about how many members are participating in your service club activities? How many members are sponsoring a new club member? How many club members are participating in a Rotary Action Group? How many members are attending your district conference? How many club members are part of the Rotary Fellowships that we talked about? So this is like everything that you ever wanted to know about what's important to your club is probably in the citations. And it's the same thing with the district governor citation. So this is essentially a roadmap for success. So I would really encourage you to early on, like before you even start your year July 1, take a look at these and consider implementing them as part of your strategic plan. So I know I'm running out of time, so I will open it up for maybe a couple really quick questions, and then I'm going to turn it back over to the training team.
I will add the RI citation to the resources.
Awesome. Okay, so just to summarize, we talked about identifying ways to attract new members. We talked about developing an action plan for growing your membership. Let's see. We talked about looking at strategies to engage and retain members, and we talked about how to use the Rotary citation to support member engagement. And with that, I'm going to turn it back over to the training team.
Thank you very much, Tina. That was fantastic.
You're welcome.
I know it was really short notice, and it was a really condensed time you had to do that. Keep in mind that there will be membership training from the membership committee. Do we have any dates for that? I know everything's up in the air right now.
Are you asking me?
I was asking Tina.
Suzanne probably can answer that better than I, but I don't believe we have any dates planned.
Right.
I don't think we do, simply because we don't know where the COVID-19 is going at this point in time. We were hoping to get something in before the end of this year. I don't think that's going to be happening. But Jean-Louis, who is the district membership chair, has been working on this, and so we're trying to figure out what might make the most sense.
Yeah. Yep. So that's good. So everybody just keep an eye out for that, and you'll hear about that as it gets closer. We're going to take a 5-minute break and come back here at 7:02 apparently. So go ahead and do what you need to do, and we'll meet you back here. All right.
Back. Are we there?
Got control.
Yep. There we go. Okay. All right. Let's see how this goes. My mouse is being temperamental. Yay. Okay. So here we go. So let's talk about strategic planning. With planning your year as president, you're in a unique position to strengthen your relationships, discover and celebrate your club's diverse perspectives, and apply your club's professional expertise and experience to improve communities at home and around the world. In your role as president, you lead your club, you engage and inspire members, and you promote Rotary in your community. How will you connect with the leaders in your community, in your club and district to make a positive, lasting change? In planning your year, you're going to set goals and create an action plan to accomplish those goals. Oh, here we go. This is great. Okay, good. We'll talk about strategic planning, goal setting, and then Scott will walk us through a SWOT analysis. Your club's strategic plan is a long-term commitment requiring the support of all of your members. You're going to want to engage them. Clubs that follow a strategic plan report higher levels of member engagement, retention, and satisfaction. Clubs with more engaged members are more successful at achieving their goals. So by now, I'm sure you've given thought to what you want to accomplish during your year as president. What are your goals for your year as club president? How will you accomplish those goals? You will work with your club's leadership, your club's leadership team to set the goals for your year for club president and after with your longer term goals. Some of the tools available to you, Tina touched on this earlier. We can't say enough. Rotary really provides some wonderful tools. You have your President's Manual, you have Be a Vibrant Club worksheet, as well as the Be a Vibrant Club, I guess, methodology. The Strategic Planning Guide is a wonderful piece for developing your goals, your action plans. You're going to set whatever your goals are for the year. You're going to eventually enter them in Rotary Club Central. We'll get to that a little later, another night, not tonight. And one of those goals should always be membership, since we're kind of segueing into the strategic planning, but membership should always be one of those goals, so consider that. The Strategic Planning Guide is used to develop and refine collaborative strategic plan that works for your club. And all of this can be found, here we go, the mouse is just doing its own life. All of this can be found in the resource sheet that is tagged into the top of the agenda. It's we keep updating that sheet with more and more resources. There's links to everything, and at the very least you can go to Rotary.org and do a search for any of the things we're talking about. But that resource sheet is a thing we keep updating and putting more resources in there for you. Okay. Oh, geez. It's not letting me use my arrow. There we go. Okay. So in 2017, Rotary adopted a new vision statement to guide the organization into the future. Together, we see a world where people unite, take action to create lasting change across the globe, communities, and in ourselves. Consider how your club can further this vision as you set your goals for your year as president. So this is taken straight out of the Strategic Planning Guide. This is mentioned in last week's training. Karina went over this with Rotary's action plan. It's 5 years, 4 priorities. You keep this in mind as you go forward. Part of that roadmap that Tina touched upon in her presentation about between the citations. But again, this is your roadmap. It'll help spark ideas if you don't have them already regarding your year. RI encourages clubs and districts to align with their goals and their action plan. So this is in all likelihood in your president's guide, in your president's manual, but I know it's on the strategic plan guide. And let's see, that covers that. So you need to engage your members in the process. You may want to dedicate a club meeting to the strategic planning session. And once you have the information from that session, you will need to take an action. I would suggest you send out a survey in advance, collect the completed survey so you can design your work session around the information you get back to maximize your time in that club meeting. This has worked really well for us in the past. The photo that you saw earlier, 2 or 3 slides ago, basically I took some of the questions, put them on really colorful cardstock, threw them on the table. Every table had the same questions and let them just kind of pass them along, fill in some blanks. It was a good way to just gather information if you don't want to do the email of a survey, but it gets them thinking about it. There's all different kinds of questions to ask, and each club is unique. So you keep that in mind always, because every club has got what I call a different flavor. And you definitely want to enhance areas, maybe you want to change things. But it's a great process to go through. It also engages your members. So looking at this, number 1, where are we? You want to assess where you are as a club. Where are you looking to go to? What do you want to accomplish? You're going to create an action plan. That's your roadmap to accomplish your goals. You'll evaluate it during the year. You'll check in on that plan. It may need to be adjusted or tweaked. And be flexible. Some of your goals may need flexibility. Some of them may just be easy and you'll have them done in 2 months and keep on moving. Don't try to bite off too much at one time, though. We'll get to some best practices after Scott goes from here. He will walk you through the SWOT analysis at this point, and that will help you to define how you will lead. Scott, can you take it away?
I have control of the slides myself.
You have to request them. Give up remote control.
Scott, your volume is really low.
Okay.
Are you like on your mic or is it covered?
All right now?
Nope. Not really.
I am just on my normal laptop, so.
It's just that, yeah, leading forward seems to work. So request control under a remote control at the top. There you go.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. I don't know how many of you are familiar with SWOT analysis, but it's a great tool that I've actually used in my own professional world, not just in Rotary, but I've actually used it in my own business. And we've sat down with my business partners to develop long-term goals for how we want to run our organization. And we try to break those goals down into achievable, really trackable goals. And we've used SWOT analysis workshops in order to actually identify different things. So part of this is you got to identify the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities and threats. And we're going to be talking about that in a little bit more detail as I try to advance the slide. All right. So one of the examples I wanted to use is just let's try to throw out a club goal that we have in our strategic plan. And I'm kind of partial to the Rotary Foundation. So I think as Robin mentioned that you should have a strategic goal for membership, I also think you ought to have a strategic goal for your foundation giving and how to support the Rotary Foundation. So the sample goal that I'm doing in this hypothetical is let's increase the foundation giving by 10% each year over the next 3 years. So again, this was identified. This is something that you've probably worked with the board of directors on. You've actually talked to the president-elect before you, or the current president, the president after you, but you want to get full buy-in on some types of goals like this, that this is what the club truly wants to go after. So doing that SWOT analysis, the first thing you want to do is identify the strengths. What are the strengths in your club that would make that a goal achievable? And so one of the things I said was, well, maybe our club's membership is very generous in their giving. Maybe they have supported other projects in the past very generously. Maybe they just need to be asked and they would be happy to support this. So they're very generous with their giving. We have several core club members who are already contributing to the foundation. So we already have an infrastructure built in place with people that are currently supporting. And then we've got the complete buy-in and support from the board, the club leadership to endorse this goal, and they'll support any efforts needed to achieve the goal. So again, this came out of our strategic planning for our club, so hopefully everybody's on the same page. Another important, probably what I have for you is the most important part of this whole process, is identifying the weaknesses. What would prevent you from achieving your goal? So we'll say for our club, the weaknesses in trying to contribute more to the foundation is maybe our membership truly doesn't understand what the Rotary Foundation does. They don't have a good concept of what this great and amazing foundation is actually servicing. Does the club have a foundation committee, or is it just a one-person rodeo? I always think that it makes a successful club if you have a committee of more than just one. Lack of understanding on how members can contribute. Sometimes we talk about foundation a lot, but people probably just don't even understand, well, how do I get the money there? Where do I send it in? Or how does it get assessed? I've also seen that some members need to be led to the end point and they need to be guided step by step. Literally, you have to hand feed them. If you're looking to try to get them to participate, you have to take them through each and every step. And then we always have that mold of, we always do the same thing over and over again. We might have a weakness of trying to get members to do something new. This is something that they might not have participated before in the past, We're trying to encourage them, but this could be a real weakness that people are not used to change. Some opportunities. What do we have for opportunities? Well, we have an opportunity inside Rotary. If we want to support the foundation, Rotary International has made it very easy for us to do so. And the fact that they have Rotary direct accounts that you can set up. Rotary direct accounts, and I can have a whole nother foundation seminar, but you have the ability to have automatic monthly contributions or annual contributions directly linked to a checking account, a credit card account, but they make it very easy for you to give. Some clubs actually have the opportunity to build into their own membership dues and a line item where people can actually elect, when they pay their membership dues to the club, an additional money to go into the Rotary Foundation. Another opportunity is within the foundation, there are several areas of focus. Obviously, I'm partial to Polio Plus, but we also have clean water projects, maternal projects, education, financial. There's different areas that might spark an interest inside your club members saying, you know what, I really want to support polio. I really want to support the annual fund. There are ways of trying to direct that. Oh, I just want to go back a slide, but
Sorry.
I think I lost control. Karina, would you be able to back it up one? Oh, there we go. So, and we might have members inside the club. That's an opportunity for them to volunteer and want to serve on the committee. Oh. And so that's one of the opportunities. So what are the threats? Just as important, you got to realize there are going to be threats to your goal, and you have to recognize them early on so you can try to work hard to counteract them. One of the common threads I always hear when we ask for more giving to the foundation is Rotarians are being asked to donate too many times during a club year. There are different fundraisers, there are different dues, there are different activities. Sometimes you're going to the well too many times to ask for more giving. We also have a significant fear of, we've identified inside of clubs, that money isn't leaving the local community. When they hear the foundation, they automatically assume it's going to international projects. It's leaving the state of Maine, leaving our local communities. So that's a threat that sometimes you have to make sure you're educating on, but it is a definite threat that people do not want to give additional money to the foundation out of fear it's leaving their local community. We've had concerns for stewardship of the foundation dollars. I'm sure that we've all seen the different news articles about different foundations that weren't highly rated. They weren't well controlled. They had a lot of high overhead. I can personally assure you that the Rotary Foundation is not one of those. We are actually one of the highest rated foundations that you'll find. And we're very stringent on how those dollars are being used. And then the other threat is the lack of club tracking and monitoring for this goal. Currently, they probably don't have a situation in place where the treasurer is tracking the foundation giving. Nobody's going online to actually see. So why give more when nobody's even tracking it? That might be a threat. Sorry, we are still. I will request control again. So once you have identified your strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, you need to actually start doing action steps. How are we going to achieve this? When you're setting up action steps on how to achieve this goal, you need to make sure you know that you're identifying what the action step is, who will be responsible for carrying out this action step. You need to make an assignment. Don't just leave it out there that somebody in the club is going to jump up and really take this on their shoulders. Hopefully, assign somebody who will be responsible and that will be accountable for this action step. How long will this action step take? You want to put in a certain time frame. You don't want to leave it open-ended hoping it's going to get done. And the next thing we know, it's May and the Rotary year is coming to a close and we actually didn't step up and really do this project. How will the progress be measured? You need to have a measurable. You need to see, are we achieving our goal? Where are we at with this goal? And then you need to identify what resources are available to help you achieve this action step. So for the goal of increasing the foundation given by 10% inside our club, first action step is to develop a specific education program for club members to gain a better understanding of what the Rotary Foundation does and the programs it supports. Highlight both international and local projects. Personally, I did this for our club a few years ago, and the fact that we really wanted to make sure our members knew the impact that the foundation support was having. So I was fortunate enough to be able to use the month of November, which you'll see the WHO was the foundation chair. And at that time, I served as a foundation chair, but preferably you'd have a committee that would all serve on this. How long? Well, I targeted this action step to be the month of November. I specifically had 4 weeks identified, and I wanted the theme of November to be Foundation Month. So each week I lined up a speaker. I had 2 international projects I featured, and I also featured 2 local projects that were directly supported by the Rotary Foundation. I've actually included our own Tina on the screen today because Rotary Reads is a fantastic program that's received foundation dollars to support. And then we've had international water projects. I've had Deb Walters come up to talk about her projects internationally. So I wanted to make sure the club saw both international and the local aspect by having club presentations and directly telling them these are what we're supporting by having foundation dollars being given. So part of that process is it would be a great idea to survey the club prior to having that month to find out what is their level of knowledge about the foundation so that they can actually have a baseline that you can start measuring off. And after the 4 weeks of presentations and the 4 weeks of happy dollars, and then you try to make sure you're emphasizing the importance of the foundation, put out another survey and say, okay, now that we've completed Rotary Foundation Month, what do you feel your knowledge levels are at? Have some measurables. So what resources do you have available to you to do this type of project? Well, first off, I'll tell you, Rotary Foundation has an amazing wealth of information online that you can certainly access at any time. We also have a fantastic District Foundation Committee. And if you ever need help with that, anybody on the District Foundation Committee would be more than happy to help you. I personally have served as the Polio Plus chairperson on the main side for the last several years, and I'm always happy to go out to clubs to speak about the impact the Polio Plus program has and how the foundation is supported by it. And then featuring our own district success stories. We have some district project success stories that maybe inside your own club or close nearby proximity. Ask for them to come in and speak to your club or highlight how they achieved their goal with their foundation dollars. Greta, could you go ahead one more? So the action step number 2, again, I wanted to make sure I had multiple action steps. Educate and assist members to contribute to the foundation easier. Add in a line item to the club's membership due statement. This was an idea that came out of Pets, I think, at one point that people said, you know what, we have our club dues and we have another line item. Would they like to include that dues and payment right there, have a foundation giving? I think this worked out wonderful because a lot of times people are paying their membership dues through their company, and the company said, yeah, we'll pay your membership and we'll put an extra $100 in just for the foundation giving. And the treasurer in our club was able to track that, send out the separate payments directly for the foundation, identifying who the member was. But it made it just that much easier that at the beginning of the year, you're building that in as part of your membership dues. Maybe not make it mandatory, but make it easy that they can do that just with a simple write-in of a number and a charge of account. And then I've also had the opportunity to distribute Rotary Direct flyers throughout the month of November. Leading into those speaker presentations on everybody's table, I always was sure that everybody had in front of them a brochure about what Rotary Direct was, how to make contributions to Rotary Direct. And then after the meetings were over with, invite the members to stay after if they need help. Bring a laptop to the meeting and ask them, hey, I'll log right into Rotary.org with you. Here's your username and password. Let's go right in together, and I'll walk you through the steps of setting up that once a year you have $100 paid out of your checking account or out of your credit card. But again, the WHO was the foundation chair, the club committee, but also involving the club treasurer. So you want to identify who's going to help you out with these process. How long? Well, we use the month of November as our foundation month, but your membership dues might be something that you're building in the month of May if they need to be paid before the club year. How will the progress be tracked? You can actually track your foundation giving through Rotary.org. Your president, your treasurer, there are officers that actually have access, and they can actually see how well they're doing year to date. And then what resources? Again, going back to using the resource of the Rotary Foundation, the district foundation committee, and ultimately the club treasurer is going to be another partner you want to make sure that's involved in this whole giving process. Karina, could you go one more? So going back, that's a SWOT analysis. I picked one strategic goal of foundation giving. I identified the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, the threats. Then I took those action steps, and those are just 2. Some of your strategic plans may require several action steps, but I'm going to tell you it's very important to have the follow through, make the assignments, and make sure it's trackable. If it's part of your strategic plan, you need to have a way of measuring your success. So with that, I'm going to turn it back over to Robin.
Hello. So
I should ask, is there any questions on a SWOT analysis? Well, easy enough.
If you would like to do one with your club and you don't feel like you want to do that alone, we would definitely come to any club to help you out with any sort of strategic planning and do that with you. So keep that in mind. You know, if it sounds a bit daunting, don't worry about it. We would definitely come and help, because it's such a great tool to use for your club to really get the idea. One of the things that Tina was talking about earlier, and again, Scott reminded me, is that you hear a lot from the squeaky wheels, and you start to believe what they're saying, and frequently they don't. You're saying, oh my gosh, we've got this terrible problem, everybody hates the food. Well, no, it was 2 people out of the whole club, but they're the ones you're hearing from. So your perception can be altered by things if you're not doing a process like this, like a survey, like all of these tools that we're trying to give you. So it really, alters your perception again as to what the real temperature of your club is.
all right. At this point, I'm not muted, right? Let me make sure. Can you hear me okay? Good, okay. Let's talk a little bit about the best practices for this process. Be realistic in your goals. Number 1, know thy club. You know, if your club has a history of having 1 or 2 net new members, don't assume you're going to gain 10, although it's possible if you really put the effort into it. But be realistic and know your club and engage them. It's really important. You need to create an action plan for each goal, set and track your goals. For the best results, set goals that are specific, such as increase membership by 10% by the end of the year. That's a much more effective goal. It's much clearer rather than add new members. Evaluate the plan. Don't forget to celebrate your accomplishments when you reach some of these goals. Some may be reached sooner than others. You may take the full year or longer to reach some of the other ones in your plans, but be sure to celebrate those. Keep communications open with your club members during your meetings. Give them updates or ask for updates from your committees regarding your goals. See how things are coming along. Encourage some excitement. Years and years ago, we did a membership push in our club, and we had 2 members, and we built mini teams, and the rewards were M&Ms. Our club, that's all it takes, M&Ms. And we actually did increase our membership that year because it became very competitive about who got the M&Ms. So get creative, have some fun with it. You will enter your goals for membership. Enter all of your goals in Rotary Club Central. So you want to go in there and get familiar. If you haven't, signed in and kind of walked your way through Rotary.org and then start looking at Rotary Club Central, start getting familiar with it because you're going to be spending some time in there. You will have to enter goals for membership and foundation on Rotary Club Central. So just a heads up on that. Some of the other best practices is you've got great resources right in your own club. Look at your club leadership. Talk to your district leadership. Talk to Tina, your membership chair. Talk to Scott with foundation. Don't be afraid to engage them and get creative with how you want to approach meeting some of your goals. Fortunately for me, when I went to Pets as a vice president, I got to ride in the car with Karina, and this is where it all began for me. And I remember thinking on the way home, I am completely overwhelmed. What am I going to do? Keep your goals realistic. With, you know, don't assume you're going to do 53 goals. Stay focused on the things that really matter. So you have to engage your membership. So there is a membership questionnaire as in your membership assessment tools that Tina mentioned. You can customize some of these surveys for your club. As Karina mentioned, we talked about food. You need to engage your membership to get their buy-in and accomplish your goals. Include everything from the time you meet to the meal, to the length of your meeting, to social, to whatever that might be for your club. Don't be afraid to ask the hard questions. As you perform a thorough assessment, identify the gaps between who you are, who you need or want to be as a club. Just don't be afraid to ask the questions. Remind the club, I mentioned earlier, about your goals, update them, how the progress is being made. Ask for help. It's really important. You can't do it all alone. And I think we touched on this in an early training session. Delegate and ask for help. There's nothing wrong with that. Consider how your club can have the most impact. Use the tools located on the PETS resource sheet that we've provided for you. Use the tools on Rotary.org. Tailor your plan so it's the most effective for your club, engages your members and the members of your community. Again, talk to your community. Where is there a gap? Is there something you can fulfill there when it comes to a service project? Be innovative on how you implement the action plan, and be bold. There's nothing wrong with being bold. So I know one of the other tips that popped in my head while I was speaking, I had asked, when it was approaching my year, I asked people I thought could give me good advice. And I went around and asked for one best practice from people around me with how do I attain and achieve my goals. I asked different membership folks. I asked people in other clubs. I asked past district governors. The main theme I got back was, don't be afraid to ask and say thank you a lot. People want to be asked to help. They're in Rotary to be people of action. So on that note, I will swing it over and ask Doug, as a past district governor, Scott, Karina, any other good best practices that I didn't touch on? Anything more to offer? Oh.
Seems like you've been pretty thorough.
Well, thank you.
I really can't think of anything else that comes to mind right off.
Actually, one thing that does, and this is something that all of you kind of touched on a bit, when we do pets in person, we do what's called a compass activity. And it's just it's a personality quiz kind of thing. We do a very condensed version of that. And doing something like that with your club can help you see what area people's are really well suited for before you ask them to do something. So there are the planners, and there are the, the visionaries who are always thinking of the big ideas. Those people are not the ones you want for treasurer or doing, there are different kinds of, but you need those people to come up with the ideas that your club might be your club's next big project. So that's one of the things that I would suggest, looking into some of those and just like condensing it down to a very simple type of thing where you can do it with your club and you can get the ideas of what people are, where their strengths are before, so that you can read the strengths of your club, and then that really helps with your analysis.
In case in point, we've touched on this in training before, that looking at our training team and how our trainers are built. So, you know, I know where I'm firmly, the compass exercise is basically 4 points of the compass. The east is a big vision. The norths are get it done. The west are the detail folks, and the souths are the people.
Uh-huh.
South with a bit of other areas. Karina's the north with get it done with some other areas. Doug and Scott, I'll let them speak for themselves as to where they feel they land.
West.
Yeah, you think?
Doug is southwest. Actually, they're both a little southwest, and I need a lot of the south because that's the kind of thing that I am lacking the most. I don't always read people. I don't anticipate things of how people are going to be feeling. I'm like, let's go, and kind of, you know, plow through things. This is why it's so important for me to have that. So yeah, it's exactly right. It really is how we work.
And those are the things you need to take into consideration when you're asking someone to do a job, and be sure to ask them to do a job. Don't assume they'll continue doing what they do. But that's what I have for tonight. Are there questions? You can advance a slide there, Karina, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, Charlie said, great example, Scott, and thanked him. So I just wanted to get that. Oh yeah. And we are always here. So, you know, if you want us to come do a compass activity, anything you need for your club, we can definitely do that. And any other questions? So I just threw this slide together today. Robin reminded me that this would be a really good thing to let people know. So since we're doing Monday nights, kind of keeping on this schedule, for the four of us works really well. We seem to get pretty good attendance. Any night is going to have conflicts with people. We tend to find that moving things around actually decreases attendance with things, and that at least we found that in our club with meetings. I'd like to continue the Monday nights. Part 4 of Pets is next week, and then you guys all officially graduate. And then April 13th, I realize this title might be misleading. It is secretary and technology, not secretary technology training. It's president-elect, president, secretary, all of those folks, maybe even your membership chair. The people who are in the technology, who are either in Club Runner, entering things, attendance, or editing members, or entering stuff for the secretarial type of work. All of that we wanted to cover, and we wanted to talk about it at the club and the district and the RI levels. So we will get into my Rotary and Rotary Club Central, and where the presidents-elect are going to be entering their goals, which we keep mentioning, but we haven't told you how to do it. So that is going to be a really important technology meeting. And after that, I really hope to have a treasurer training on a following Monday. And I thought it would be nice for us to keep those other Monday opportunities open if somebody wanted to have a club individualized training for their club. What if you have a secretary who needs training but they don't have Club Runner? Or maybe you were thinking about getting Club Runner and you want to have that. Maybe you'd like to do that, learn more about strategic planning. Whatever we don't cover after the next session, that's definitely something that we could do on another Monday. Additionally, don't forget the YouTube channel. We have had probably about 15 views of part 1. We've already had 5 views of part 2, and I just sent that out. Well, I don't know if they're really, like if they watched the whole thing. The analytics say one thing, but so it's really, really important for you for your year to watch all of these sections. And actually, I think that's all. Yeah, part 4.
Nancy
Part
just
4 is next. What's that, Scott?
Nancy asked a question: will the club secretaries and treasurers be emailed on this? And the answer would be, if the club secretaries and treasurers are loaded into their club runner and appear on the district website, then they will be receiving the email. If for some reason they're not loaded onto Club Runner or the district website, then you may want to make efforts to make sure that they are added, or let them know ahead of time.
So what I will tell you is that for this training and for all of them that I've been sending, it's to all presidents-elect, all vice presidents, which there are only 10 of entered, all secretaries, all AGs, and then Suzanne and Joelle, and the main the Quebec side trainer. So it's a huge swath of people who are invited every single time to these sessions. And it might be some of them that are looking at the recordings as well. So is there another question in there? I'm going to stop sharing. All right. Okay. Yeah, so I will be more clear on the content of that secretary and technology training so that people understand who it's for. So anybody who wants help with the technology tools. And presidents-elect really should know how to do these kinds of things as well. So if that's it, does anybody else have any questions, comments, anything they'd like to bring up?
Karina, this is George. How does one access the pets training on YouTube? What do we enter in?
You click on the link in the resources.
Or, I'm sorry?
I put the link in the resources at the bottom of the page.
Okay, I'll find it there. Okay, thank you.
Yep. And it's Rotary District 7790.
Thank you.
So if you searched that, it would show up in Facebook.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
What are we missing that we would have been given if we had gone to pets? I mean, what were handouts that we would have gotten, things like that?
The President's Manual, the brochures there would probably be pieces of paper that are all in virtual format on that document. So you're not missing anything.
And your evaluation.
Okay.
The evaluation that is online gives us valuable feedback. So if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, please do that. This is, it's really short on this one. I'm going to do a more comprehensive survey after next week's meeting, just because then you'll know kind of what you're left without. So some of the things that you are missing from not being there aren't really resources, though. You have all the resources that you would have had if you were there. Things you're missing are more inspirational. You would have heard some really cool speakers. You would have learned about some amazing projects that we don't necessarily have. You would have heard from more folks, and you would have gotten to meet all of these folks that you're seeing here, as well as your counterparts in Quebec, and gotten that international mixing and all of that. And Suzanne is working on a meeting in October. I'm going to try to keep her from calling it pets, because you guys are going to think, I've already been to pets. I don't want to go to that thing in October. And I want people to go, but we need to make sure that we get as many people as we can there, because those are the things that you're missing. It's not resources as much as it is the inspiration.
Can I jump in? Can I jump in here?
Yes.
Sorry, Doug, but a couple of things. I do have District Governor-elect Joël Philibert does have nice little packets for everybody with your banners that I have for the main side. As you know, the borders are shut, so he was able to get those to me before the border shut down. And once it's a little safer to move about, I'll get those out to everybody, and it has the manual in it. But to Karina's point, the more that you can get involved in the district, the more things that you attend as presidents on a district level, it's so hard to explain. Just the networking, the chitter chatter, getting to know the district leaders better, getting to know your counterparts in Quebec and in Maine. I mean, the information is just, in my opinion, there's absolutely no better way to have a PETS than to have it at a location. The trainers have done an incredible job giving you information here, but it's just, it can't be, it's hard to explain it, but you really have to be, and we feel really badly about that. What we're having in October, we are not going to be calling PETS. And I would encourage everybody to get that on your calendar, because it is going to give you a real taste of what it's like to be in an international club, what it's like to be able to share wonderful ideas that you're just not going to get otherwise. So anyway, thank you for all the trainers. I mean, the amount of work that they're putting in is probably more work and a much bigger time commitment than having a weekend up in St. George. And the food is not anywhere near as good.
I know, I'm not getting dessert. Jeez.
So
No, it's
Suzanne,
true.
Suzanne, what is the date of that meeting in October?
It's the weekend of October 15th.
Thank you.
We have some chat conversation here going on. Ken Nagel would like to throw in there the chance to speak French, because there's some people who are working on their French or would like to speak French. And then Charlie Rodriguez asking, will we be getting the hard copy of the President's Manual? I'm assuming that's in Joelle's packet. Is that correct, Suzanne?
That is correct.
Yep. And not able to link to survey from the agenda from Izzy. And we addressed the date. The other thing is the banners. I'm assuming that that's part of Joelle's package. Okay. Yep. I think we're caught up.
Yep.
I would like to make a comment. The other day, I think last week, I mentioned that I was going to be on a Zoom training with the RI on, oh, what date was that? I did that the other day. Monday, I think it was, the 23rd. And I got to meet the RI president, Mark.
Nice.
On a line for the Zoom training, because so many clubs are now, that's how they're meeting. I know that's what we're doing, and we're scheduled out through May 6th for our breakfast meetings on Zoom. But he had a lot